Alright, YouTube, let's try this again. This is LA Prepper. And oh man, it has been a day. It hasn't been that exciting of a day, I suppose, all things considered. Work was work. Working on fixing a few processes, trying to improve a few manufacturing processes that are giving us a couple tiny little headaches. And they're the types of headaches that are infrequent and somewhat unpredictable, aside from their frequency and predictability. So, also working on trying to fix a couple parts that need a little bit of extra help. Sometimes things don't go quite as you expect in manufacturing, and you have to go a little bit outside your comfort zone to fix something, or at least outside of normal operating procedures, or nominal procedures as smart people like to call them. But the reason I want to make this video is because I saw this lady at the liquor store, the I live in my car, give me money lady, and I am in a rare position, having lived in my car, to be critical of such a thing. Now, I get that there are people living in their cars and sometimes shit happens, but the thing that gets me is I wonder if she even contacted the company that I gave her the information on. There's a company that provides janitorial services where I work. And before you start thinking that, well, why'd you give her the number of a janitor company? What makes you think she's a janitor? She was actually working on her AA, now that I think about it. And I made a comment in the last video that was probably a waste of her time. But the point is, why wouldn't you even try? You know, it's an easy job. Jobs don't always have to be glamorous. In fact, your first jobs and when you're developing your career, you often have not glamorous jobs. I've dug trenches, I've crawled under houses, I've swept dirt in circles, I've picked up nails on construction sites with magnetic sweepers. I've done all the stuff, you know. Dealt with clients who were happy, dealt with clients who were in collections and losing their house and all manner of things. And I will tell you, I get a lot more satisfaction out of dealing someone in a difficult circumstance than dealing with someone in a easy circumstance. I remember one of the first difficult clients I ever dealt with was a lady. It was my first retail job. This lady was buying 2 bicycles from a store. It was Talbot. Man, you better slow the fuck down, buddy. I don't give a fuck how close you are on my ass. You can back the fuck up. Go around, asshole. Anyways, people doing stupid shit in their cars. It's like, dude, you're in a Challenger. Like, the car costs like 10 grand. Get the fuck over yourself. Your car is slow. And basically a piece of shit. But I digress. So this lady at Talbot's comes in. She wants 2 bicycles. And the thing was, they had the accessories like a water bottle holder that weren't included in the price of the bike. Now, I mean, in my opinion, if you bolt something onto the bike, you shouldn't really call it an extra because you kind of already bolted it on. If it's going to be an extra, then leave it unbolted and then make the sales pitch like, hey, would you like to throw in a couple of water bottle holders for the bicycle? You know, the bicycles come from the factory without anything. So if you want like a rack or a light or a bell or a water bottle holder, you know, they're kind of nice to have, right? But instead, the company had us do it where they just bolted it on, and then you told them as you were ringing it up. I don't even know how it came up. Like, I should have just rang up the whole thing. I don't know, like I gave her the total. I don't know how it came up. I didn't handle it appropriately. But she was like, "Oh, can't you throw in the cup holders for free or whatever?" And I'm like, "Gee, I don't know. I'm kind of new here. I mean, I'll check with my coworker." And of course, the coworker's like, which was a surprisingly good deflection for such a new employee. I didn't just say outright no. I said, I'm not sure. Let me check. Which is a pretty good answer if the answer is going to be no, anyways. So I checked, and of course, the answer was no. And, she got all miffed. Well, if I bought them over here, they would give them to me, which is a classic customer response. Well, these guys will do this for me. I ended up quitting that job 2 weeks later because they were paying me like $650 an hour, and I was selling these bikes that were like $400 or $500 or something. I mean, maybe $300. The margin on the bikes must have been a good like 40%, 50%. So I was making a killing for these guys, and they were paying me chump change. So I said, fuck you. And I was still in high school, and my friends were like doing stuff and having fun, and I was like working, and I'm like, this kind of blows. I didn't really need the money, like for gas money or anything. I didn't need the money. I didn't have an allowance, but I did need the money. So I don't know where I was going with that story about the job. But the point was that you can't always expect to have a good job. So it's like, I see this lady on and off in front of the liquor store. Oh, you get some spare change. You got some spare change. It's like, what are you willing to do for yourself? You will probably make... Granted, some people say like, oh, homeless people can make more than, minimum wage. And that is true in certain circumstances. I don't think every homeless person is making more than minimum wage, even accounting for taxes. If you get 15 people to give you $1 an hour, yeah, that's $15 an hour, but you're not going to get that every hour. You're not going to get that 8 hours a day. And the thing is, even if you do that for like 5 years, you're not really growing your resume. Like, what if you want to get a job paying $17.50 an hour or $20 an hour? It's not like you can say, well, I asked people for money for 5 years and I got paid $15 an hour, so could you give me 17 and a half? Which ironically, to make $15 an hour after taxes, you'd probably have to make about $20 an hour. So, it's not like they have an easy life just because they're getting tax-free money. The point is, it's not easy to get a job, and it's not easy to pick yourself up off the street, but it is possible, and you're definitely not going to get anywhere if you don't try. I don't know what that lady's exact story was. I don't know if she's getting student aid. I don't think she lives in her car. I think she pretends to live in her car. And that's a fairly strong accusation, but I just don't see it because I know people that work full time and live in their car. I didn't really meet, but I saw plenty of people that were living in their car when I was living in my car, and now having lived in my car, those people stand out to me kind of like a sore thumb. They park all around the neighborhood, and the people that are in the RVs that haven't moved in a year, they're very obvious. But even the other people like that are just parked with their windows down, you just kind of tell, you just get a sense for it. And generally speaking, most of those people are not at the liquor store or the gas station asking for money. And what's really interesting about it is that there's always a bit of strategy, right? So they're not at the liquor store all day asking for money. They're at the liquor store from like 11 o'clock at night to 2 in the morning because that's when they know the liquor store is heavy traffic. So it's like from 11 o'clock at night to 2 in the morning, her quote-unquote full-time job is asking for money, which is not so uncommon with homeless people, that they sort of develop the system, whether it's their intersection, what kind of sign they're holding. I mean, Christ, I've seen window washers, I've seen jugglers, I've seen a guy who looked like he was strung out on meth or in withdrawal from being on meth like playing an like the most pathetic air guitar attempt you ever saw in your life. It was almost funny. It was so bad. Um, I haven't seen a lot of kids asking for money. I've seen the old people ask for money. There's an old guy at the intersection where I work who sells flowers, and he's got the cane and he's kind of hunched over. Not to say he doesn't need the cane or that the hunch is fake, but it's like it all adds to the ambiance of needing help. So I don't know where I'm going with this rant. I guess the point is, if you want help, be willing to pick yourself up first. Don't just ask for help for tomorrow. That's a very short-sighted help. Like the adage goes, I don't want to give you fish just for today or just for tomorrow. I am more than willing. I spent like 5 minutes talking to that lady, a couple months ago about, this is where I work. This is a company that works where I work. And I probably mentioned this in the other video, but the janitorial company that I mentioned to this lady happens to have a lot of black people working at it. And I know this is going to sound insensitive, but I don't know if you ever noticed that sometimes black-owned businesses have a tendency to hire black people, and businesses with a lot of Latin people tend to hire Latins. Businesses with a lot of Chinese or Filipino or Taiwanese people tend to hire people of their own culture, whether it's because it makes it easier for the clientele to speak with the business professionals, whether it makes it easier for you to converse with your coworkers. It is wrong in the sense that you should be able to hire the most qualified person, but I think we all understand that sometimes birds of a feather flock together. So it's not, if there's a 7-Eleven that's owned by black people and they hire a bunch of black people, usually other people aren't like, wow, that's racist. You hired a bunch of black people. Like, we kind of get it. Or if you're at the Taco Bell and everyone in the kitchen speaks Spanish, you're not really thinking like, man, there should be more Asians and white people working at this Taco Bell. You just kind of understand that sometimes you get these little cliques, like, in retail, for example. So, anyways, I'm home now. I want to relax and have a beer and not think about life too much. But until next time, stay ready, stay safe. If you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it, but at least be willing to lift yourself up before you ask me for a hand or a handout. Till next time, it's LA Prepper, keeping it real, and I hope you keep prepping.